if you guys haven't been paying attention, there was a very big piece of news that dropped yesterday, just as we were about to go live, and that is that Gina Carano has filed a huge lawsuit against Disney for her wrongful termination after all of the fiasco that happened that happened during The Mandalorian. This, of course, was funded by Elon Musk. This is a very big deal, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, and Elon is going off against Disney right now as well. He's also announced that if anyone would like to join the lawsuit against Disney, that they're free to reply to him on X and let him know. So this could turn into a class action. So here is her announcement from yesterday. Today is an important day for me. I'm filing a lawsuit against Lucasfilm and Disney. It's also against Huckleberry Industries, which is a Disney subsidiary. After my 20 years of building a career from scratch and during the regime of former Disney CEO Bob Chapek, Lucasfilm made this statement on Twitter, terminating me from The Mandalorian. Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm, and there are no plans for her to be in the future. Nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable.
She never ever did that.
Obviously not. Nothing could be further from the truth. The truth is I was being hunted down from everything I posted to every post I liked because I was not in line with the acceptable narrative of the time. My words were consistently twisted to demonize and dehumanize me as an alt-right wing extremist. It was a bullying smear campaign aimed at silencing, destroying, and making an example out of me. The thing is, I never even used aggressive language. I shared my thought-provoking quotes, pictures, memes, and occasionally I used my own words, not with aggression, but with respect and the occasional comedy to keep the mood light in dark times. Look with your own eyes at what I posted and ask yourself, for example, where did I compare Republicans to the Jewish people in the Holocaust? I didn't. Ask yourself why they were calling me a racist. Was there any merit behind that or history of it whatsoever? No. Look at why I was called a transphobe, for making droid noises from Star Wars. Beep Bop Boop was obviously directed to the online bullies and did not in any way denigrate transgender people. Were my questions about masks, lockdowns, and forced vaccines okay to ask and push the subject into light? Should we have been allowed to publicly discuss those topics at that time without being harassed or censored? Absolutely. Hollywood says they support female representation and equal rights. Why then were my male co-stars permitted to speak without harassment and re-education courses or termination, but I was not afforded the same right to exercise my freedom of speech? There she is referring to Carl Weathers, Pedro Pascal, and Mark Hamill. Artists do not sign away our rights as American citizens when we enter into employment. I've spoken to all my co-stars since I was fired, and there is nothing but care and kind words between us. I respect their right to free speech, and I don't have to think the same way on every issue to be their friends and work with them, and I know they feel the same toward me. A couple months ago, Elon Musk tweeted that if you had been fired from using the platform X for exercising your right to free speech, he would like to offer these people legal representation. Quite the noble offer, but never in my wildest dreams would I have thought anyone would take on my case against Lucasfilm or Disney. Still, I did respond back, I think I qualify, and thousands of people agreed, but I didn't expect anything. To my surprise, a few months ago, I received an email from a lawyer who had been hired by X to look into my story and many others. Turns out, after sending them as much information as I could gather, these past few months, my now lawyers and X believe wholeheartedly in my case and are moving forward. I would like to express my deepest gratitude and thank you to Elon Musk and X for giving me an opportunity to bring my case to light. As for me, I would love to pick up where I left off and continue my journey of creating and participating in storytelling, which is my utmost passion and everything I worked so hard for. It has been difficult to move forward with the lies and labels stuck on me, backed and encouraged by the most powerful entertainment company in the world. I'm grateful someone has come to my defense in such a powerful way and look forward to clearing my name. Thank you to all the people who have supported me and made your voices heard. I pray God blesses each and every one of you. With love, Gina Carano.
I recommend, on top, we're just going to talk about the broad strokes of this, but I do recommend anyone who's even mildly interested in this story, go read the actual lawsuit. It's not done in legalese. It's basically for the first half of it, it's describing what they're seeking, what they're claiming against Disney, and then it's just page after page of evidence of everything that happened, almost in order.
A lot of it is screenshots of the tweets that were sent to her, everything that she posted, the things that her co-stars posted. And a lot of that actually came from John Trent when he was in Bounding Into Comics.
From Bounding Into Comics.
But basically, she's seeking a minimum of $75,000 in damages. I hope that she will get more than that.
As well as compensatory damages for loss of future employment, emotional distress, punitive damages, and attorney's fees.
Yes. And that's for not only her wrongful termination, but all of the reputational damage that she suffered at the hands of Disney because they maligned her falsely. It's basically defamation. She's seeking a jury trial, and I just think, imagine getting jury duty and this being the case.
Like you have to pretend like you don't know what Disney is.
I want it to be televised. The revolution will be televised. I am so happy that she's seeking justice for this. And good on Elon for actually putting his money where his mouth is, too, because he could have just been shitposting. But he was serious.
So it breaks down into several sections. So a lot of it is her stance on not wanting to put pronouns in her bio. A lot of it is her stance on politics and on what was going on with vaccines and COVID. And a lot of it just comes down to internet bullying. And I always ask the question, like, why they ended up choosing her. Because as people had pointed out, she's not the only person who works for Lucasfilm or Disney that didn't have pronouns in her bio. But her unwillingness to acquiesce when they essentially cry bully and try to shame her into doing what she's told speaks volumes. And like I said, this lawsuit has a fantastic breakdown of all of this stuff in order. We can go through some of it. We want to start on like page 26 of the lawsuits. Let's go down there. Or maybe let's go up to 22, or I'm sorry, 20. So up here, they're talking about on social media. Actually,
it just explains what X is basically. But the harassment became worse when Carano allegedly liked a post that some claimed was not supportive of the transgender community. Late last week, Carano liked a tweet on Twitter that allegedly mocked users who practiced this method of self-identification, meaning putting your pronouns in bio.
But even before that, actually, let's start with it started with the ACAB stuff.
Well, yeah, the first thing was they were trying to pressure Gina Carano to post the phrase ACAB, which means all cops are bastards.
Disney was?
People on social media were pressuring her to do this.
People on social media, specifically, if you look at the profiles, a lot of them are Star Wars stan accounts. Like with their names saying like Boba Fett, things like that.
This one is from Zuko Skywalker. It's Maeve 501 BLM. You're a racist if you completely ignore the BLM movement and don't support it. Being silent puts you on the side of the racists and the oppressors. This is said to her. This account says it's Boba Fett. Sleepy Fett says, Gina, if you're not a racist, then show us. Support and donate to Black Lives Matter. Use the platform and voice to stand up against the police who are committing crimes against those people they are meant to protect. If 12-year-olds on Twitter can do this, you can too. This is bullying.
Yes.
This is cry bullying.
Yeah. Here was some more. 50% of Hollywood wears masks and respects the trans community. Too bad you're not included in that. Another said, hey, do you just not go by any pronouns? It's hard to tell.
This person said, this is from an account called Channel Kenobi. Again, these are all stan accounts. It says, these aren't trolls. These are people trying to educate you so that you can be on the right side of history.
Here was an account called Ahsoka. Gina, just so you know, pronouns are a part of most languages, and putting them in your bio is just a decent thing to do. Your coworker Pedro has put pronouns in his bio out of decency, so you liking tweets that mocks that just sits wrong with a lot of people.
The number one thing is when they go through all this, they always show her responses, which are always cordial and polite, but firm in what she believes.
Yes.
So this is what she said in response to the ones that I was reading. It says, in my experience, screaming at someone that they are a racist when they are not, in my experience, screaming at someone that they are a racist when they are indeed not a racist, and any post and or research you will do will show you those exact facts, then I am sorry. These people are not educators. They are cowards and bullies. Again, polite.
We got a $20 from Gal Gadurp. The Mandalorian Season 1 was filmed in what, 2018? She knew what Disney was when she signed on for the paycheck. It isn't as if the company suddenly changed in 2020, so she wanted to feed the beast but not be damaged by it. Okay. How do you feel about that?
No. I mean, there's so many people, like Hollywood, it's kind of hard to escape any type of evil. And if you want to be an actor and you want to be a successful actor, you kind of have to take the bad with the good. And it doesn't mean that she should have been singled out.
Well, they point out that there are even examples here of someone like Carl Weathers posting the exact same post she posted, but just because it's taken from him because he was a liberal.
Well, all of these people have made very on-the-nose analogies implying that Republicans are Nazis, implying that Trump is Hitler, that Republicans are in the Ku Klux Klan, and all of these things. But because they're directing it at Republicans and right-wingers, no one says a word. So it wasn't that, it was her political leaning that made her target.
And here's the thing is actually, she talked about this on Joe Rogan. She changed her mind. She, at first with COVID, she was very scared and she was not did not have the same political stance. And then she changed her mind about the vaccine, about the mandates, about COVID in general. And then eventually was like, Disney was also pushing her to do all these things, like putting her pronouns in her bio, and random people on Twitter were pressuring her to say ACAB and things like that. So not only was she someone who wasn't always political, it happened over time. And instead of just leaving her alone, she was forced into this political box that she didn't fit into at all.
Right. Yeah.
Which they love to do. They love to, you don't, this is why I always have the trouble with, even when we use labels like liberal, leftist, Republican, conservative, it's like you are made up of more than just a bunch of checklist ideas that make you this or that. Like I have a hard time articulating even what my positions are on a lot of topics. So the idea of somebody labeling me as this or that is actually kind of abhorrent. And I would say the same would be true of most people. Like you deserve to be more than just what people label you as politically, because it's a lack of nuance to who we are as people.
And it's saying you have to have this stance on this hot political topic right now.
Exactly. And the lawsuit also calls into question all of the things that they tried to do to re-educate her.
Yes.
Between her conversation with the two members of GLAAD and the attempted 45-person struggle session with people who were actively against her anyways.
These were also employees of Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy who wanted her to get on that Zoom call. And her offer in response was, hey, I would rather just go to dinner with several of you instead so that we can talk face to face. But they refused that offer because it wouldn't let them bully her with, from behind a screen, which is what was happening the entire time. They couldn't back it up. And actually, they say that they just want to, offer her help to understand their perspective.
So after she explained what when she put beep bop boop in her profile, her explanation says this is not directed at the trans community. This is directed at the cry bullies who are trying to make me speak a certain way through fear and coercion. Online coercion to do something. It was her retaliatory strike against them, not meant at anyone in particular who had no bone to pick with her. Right?
She said that she even spoke to Pedro Pascal face to face about the pronoun controversy. She said, he helped me understand why people were putting them in their bios. I didn't know before, but I do now. I won't be putting them in my bio, but good for all of you who choose to.
Again,
I stand against bullying, especially the most vulnerable, and freedom to choose.
Again, firm but polite. Yeah. Which is exactly what you should be. Like, she's been magnanimous at every step of this process. Right. So this is where it gets into it. It says defendants engage in harassment of their own. However, unlike her online abusers, defendants, by this meaning Disney and Lucasfilm, were not satisfied. They subjected Carano to long phone calls demanding an explanation and criticizing her for not embracing what some see as mandatory solidarity with a vocal element of the transgender activist community. Even when she expressed that defendants' demands were excessive and asked for some time away from constant meetings, defendants refused, demanding that she continue with her re-education programs. They required Carano to meet with representatives of GLAAD GLAAD, a national organization that promotes LGBTQIA plus acceptance, something she willingly did. She had a very positive discussion with two of their representatives during a 90-minute Zoom meeting, even reviewing several documentaries that they asked her to watch. Upon information and belief, the representatives of GLAAD with whom she spoke provided positive feedback to the defendants from their discussion. Even so, defendants continued to demand a public apology. Again, apology for what?
Why do you think Gina Carano was singled out specifically?
I have no idea.
Is it just that she has less clout than Pedro Pascal?
Like, I wonder if it's like, look, they hired this actress in this character, which was very clearly supposed to be the strong woman character, which she was. The difference is people actually liked this character, and the actress herself didn't end up falling in line with what they felt was the norm for Disney ideologically.
I questioned the idea that it was, cut and dry gender discrimination as the lawsuit claims.
They definitely mentioned gender discrimination because Pedro Pascal has a long history. Thank you. Pedro Pascal has a long history of making similarly politically charged posts just going the other direction. I don't find the gender argument to be as compelling as the political leaning argument and the fact that he was just a bigger star.
But it was also Mark Hamill, and it was also Carl Weathers. Philip Reed sent $20. I'm happy we're finally able to fight back, but dear Lord, the more I see, the more I think we just need to shut off the internet and return to pre-1995.
It would put me out of a job, but I would support that idea.
It's insane to me that a random voice on the internet can have such sway in a company.
Yep.
Like, I kind of went through this similarly just last week. Like, a random person tweeted something at Tim about Casperu that was like definitely a stretch of the truth, not the whole story. They didn't have their name in their bio. I couldn't actually look this customer up, nothing. And it just kind of ends up turning out like, oh, this person's just making a big huff and puff about literally nothing. And I mean, we're on a small scale. So I couldn't imagine being Disney and trying to take every single little tweet.
They're in the
seriously.
constant process of putting out fires when they don't need to.
So when Fire Gina Carano started trending, they started monitoring the hashtag. And it is fair to point out, look, Disney fired James Gunn for making very, very off-color jokes and then just rehired him 2 years later.
Right. And there was also an example of another Lucasfilm employee named Christina Ariel who said that all white people are racist. So in response, they publicly supported her and posted a Martin Luther King Jr. quote while this controversy was going on about double standards.
Yep.
So it was a double standard on the basis of her political leanings. I wouldn't say it was on the basis of her gender.
And I do think that her being less of a star than the other people played a huge role in this.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make any of this right. And it is this is a story of one of the greatest fabrications of evidence. So what would happen is that every time somebody would write some shit article about how she's a Nazi, they would never include the actual tweets that she had. They would never include the actual Instagram posts. They would say she said abhorrent things, and then they would never actually link you to what she said.
Now, if we're talking about right-wing sympathies, that's why I felt it was necessary to bring up Mark Hamill, because he was liking J.K. Rowling tweets that weren't just random tweets. They were related to her transphobia controversy. And his excuse at first was that he didn't read the full tweet and didn't know the context of it. But later on, he liked another J.K. Rowling tweet where there was a trans TV host named India Willoughby who tweeted at J.K. Rowling saying, "I'm more of a woman than you ever will be." And she quote tweeted that person and said, "Citation needed."
The way you said that was...
Mark Hamill liked that tweet. I don't think there's any way you could misinterpret that. I mean, maybe he's just old and not that, like he's not good at social media. But he liked that. He was a reoffender back in 2023. And he got in trouble for it, but didn't have any professional consequences.
Yep.
And then he just apologized again, acted like it never happened.
Yep. Also, it's fair to point out that after this went live, Roseanne Barr now says that she wants in on this.
Yeah, because ABC is the subsidiary that fired her. So that would be a really interesting development.
I just like, and this is the number one thing. My biggest issue with most of it is like they were so intellectually dishonest about what she actually said. And you can speak to anybody who worked on that show with her, and
Right.
I've never heard a person, a real human being that isn't a Stan account, ever have a negative thing to say about her. For all intents and purposes, she seems to be the sweetest person on God's green earth.
Yeah.
This is the post that got her fired. This is the big one that they never actually link to in these articles, which is a story post, was just a repost where it says, Jews were beaten in the streets not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that they get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews. The government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? This is a point where the thing says you can make your assumptions of what she means based on who you assume she votes for. As far as I know, I don't know if she ever at that time publicly and openly supported anyone. But you can make your assumptions, sure. I still remember after like January 6th happened, which I wasn't even paying super close attention to, but I made a story post about like if you have to silence yourself around your friends, are they really friends? Right? And it was something that I thought was quite a powerful thing to say, but I wasn't referring to anything in particular. I wasn't even paying attention to January 6th. And I got a 12-page just spewing of garbage from somebody who used to be one of my oldest friends, took my high school photos, took my senior photos in high school, basically calling me racist and evil and awful, and how Donald Trump was awful. I don't think at that time I had ever said anything publicly for or against Donald Trump online ever.
It's insane.
And that shows you that they read into it in a way that's colored by their own experience and their own bias.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't blame Gina Carano for not seeing this coming back when she was hired by Disney in either 2018 or 2019.
Yep.
Because yes, like things were ramping up with wokeness starting in the Trump, like the first Trump election and everything, but it wasn't as much pressure as the series of events that was COVID, then Black Lives Matter riots, then vaccine mandates, then January 6th, like that period of time, that very short period of time with so many high octane, polarizing political events really broke some people's brains.
With
and,
COVID on top of it and everything. Like,
and piled
Lockdown.
on so much more pressure on public figures than there used to be.
Again, they're
and
saying
she
you have
wouldn't
to
have
be-
seen that coming when she was hired originally. But that also caused her political evolution
Yeah.
in her mind.
And it's interesting because a lot of this is not about what she's saying. It's about them trying to force speech upon her. And that's a problem, right? The average person doesn't like it when you tell them. Remember when they were going around during 2020 and they would like stand in front of someone in a public place and try to make them raise their fist? Because it'd be like a group of people.
Yeah.
And because do it or you're racist. In the chat, Matt says radical left versus far right. No, remember, it's got to be the tubular right. If they get to be the radical left, the right should be the tubular right.
Well, she's just clearly not the monster that they were painting her to be. And most people can see that in hindsight. But they cited all of these quotes from her co-stars on The Mandalorian that were praising her because they actually got to know her face to face instead of, villainizing her from behind a screen. Giancarlo Esposito, who was one of her co-stars, said that Gina Carano was his favorite co-star without hesitation. Another co-star, Emily Swallow, said, "All I can say is that Gina and working with her personally, what impressed me from the beginning is she's so interested in other people's opinions, so welcoming. She wants to have genuine dialogue. She's just like that in her day-to-day life. On set, she's more curious about other people. Yeah. She's very giving. She's very gracious."
We need Ian and her to have a conversation. You haven't had somebody pay close attention to you talking until you've talked to Ian Crossland.
Oh, yeah.
Who will like, when you talk to Ian Crossland, he is paying attention to like nothing but what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing in the world. Like, we need him and her to have a conversation.
He's locked it. And also Bill Burr came to her defense after her termination, saying she was an absolute sweetheart, a super nice person. And her Twitter Avi is just, if you haven't seen it, it's the perfect summation of her personality. It's a tiny bunny rabbit holding like, what is that? Like some like medieval weapon.
Yeah. It's very her.
That's very much her.
There's a $20 one right there from I See All.
He said, Violet Brandani was on the Chrissy Mayer podcast yesterday. You remember her from the Whatever podcast. She had nothing but good things to say about you, Mary. She respects you, even though you don't like her. I mean, it's not that I dislike her as a person. I just dislike the choices that she makes in all of her opinions. But she was nice when I met her.
And of course, to finish this off, a lot of this really does come back to the fact that Pedro Pascal has been very openly political for a very long time.
And not just political.
Yes.
He demonizes right-wing people.
Yes.
He demonizes mainline Republicans.
Yep.
In a way that Gina Carano never did to left-wing people.
Yep. So it is a point of a certain level of privilege. I don't think it's male privilege. I think it's star of the show privilege and political privilege, because we all know that the politics of Hollywood leans one way and one way only.
Well, do you think that she's going to win or that she has a real chance?
I don't know. That's
We asked you guys that in the poll today.
There is a good question to be asked. What does a win even look like? Like, what does that mean? Settle out of court. She gets a certain amount of damages. What does that mean?
Or clearing her name.
In the document, it says she demands a jury trial. So I think it's unlikely that she's going to accept a settlement out of court.
Yeah.
Just to more so prove a point than it is really about the money, right?
Right. It's sort of like Johnny Depp.
Well, yeah, Johnny
suing
Depp didn't need the money.
Amber Heard, right?
Right. She lost more opportunities than just $75,000 worth.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So it's really not about the money. It's about proving a point. And Elon has endless finances to back this up. So, I mean, she could have a good chance, but it's Disney.
There's a great movie to be made here where it's like Elon is not Elon. It's just a very, very cunning financial investor who wants to bankrupt Disney so he can buy it.
Oh,
I like
that might be his 4D chess move here.
I like that idea. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.